Inspired by the grand stage of the finals, the desperation of a potential sweep, and a Windhorse tongue lashing, Luka ended Game 4 early, now averaging 29.5, 8, and almost 6 assists. Finals MVP odds, Jaylen Brown at 1, Tatum at 2, Luka with the bronze. But is there a chance, if he can pick up some more W's, that Luka can win Finals MVP in a loss?
All right. It should be noted it's been done once. Jerry West, who sadly passed away this past week.
Late great.
So it's not unprecedented. It is unprecedented since the precedent was set with the first one. Right. So in the last 54 years, it has not happened. I would argue it obviously should have happened in 2015. It didn't. That's fine. That's when LeBron averaged 36, 13, and 9, and Iguodala won, averaging 16, 5, and 4. That's fine. So here is the question I would just posit to everyone. This scenario. The Mavs win tonight, and Luka is outstanding. His best game of the series. And Tatum and Brown look like they did in Game 4, and Drew isn't great. Game 6, forget even a Game 7. Game 6, Luka's excellent again. Derek White and Al Horford combined for 12 made threes, which is on the board. Al makes 5, Derek White makes 7, and neither Tatum nor Brown cracked 22 points. You know what I mean? It's kind of similar to Game 1, except those guys explode. And Luka right now leads all players in the playoffs, points, rebounds, assists, steals. First player to ever do it. Second player ever to lead all players in points, rebounds, assists, to Joker last year. And right now, if we can show Luka versus Tatum and Brown, their numbers, it's not close.
Right.
Brew evoked defensive rating earlier, so I will say this. Luke has a higher defensive rating than either, or a better defensive rating than either one of them this year in this finals. Again, it just the numbers.
That's a weird number.
It is a weird number. It is a weird number. I'm just telling you what it says.
It's there.
I don't think it should be out of the question. I don't think we should feel obligated to that you must give it to a player on the winning team if the series goes 6 or 7. If it goes 5, I don't think it's possible. If it goes 6 or 7 under the scenario I laid out, I think it should be on the board.
I don't. I am a firm believer that the Finals MVP must go to the winning team.
Even if Luke averaged 100 points per game.
I don't care if he took them on 1-on-5, all right, and there were no other matchups. No. It is and look, Jerry West, 1969, first and only player to win the Finals MVP. That was the first year of the award, and with all due respect to those writers who vote, I don't think they knew. You know, it was like,
flip side,
we got this Finals MVP. Let's just give it to the guy that was the best player. Since then, a precedent, like at that point, there was no precedent in 1969. Now, like, if you created the MVP award this year, maybe you give it to a guy that only won 41 games. But somehow he got that team in the play. You know, like, now a precedent has been set. And my thing, Nick, I'm big on precedent. You know that. Because I don't think it's fair. If in 2024 you decide, you know what, going forward, we're just going to give the Finals MVP to whoever was the best player. That's not fair to LeBron. So LeBron was clearly the best player in 2015. And when we measure these guys in comparison to one another, historically, we look at things like this.
Can I ask you?
And so LeBron didn't get it in 2015 when he was clearly the best. Why should Luka get it? Because it's about winning.
So can I ask you a question about that, though? So that voting, I think it was 7-4. I know LeBron, it was either 7-4 or 6-3. I don't know. I don't remember if there were 9 or 11 voters for Finals MVP. And LeBron, Iguodala.
I disagree with those writers.
I know you do, because the idea that Steph got 0 votes was an absurdity. But set that aside. So the point I'm making in that is, knowing everything that we knew about the history, 40% of the voting populace in 2015 was like, I think a losing player deserves it. It's not like a losing player's never gotten votes. If it were up to Jeff Van Gundy that year, who was a voter, LeBron would have gotten it. Like we saw, because those votes are public. So is it fair that if 2 of the folks who voted Iguodala then agreed with Jeff, now Luka's more eligible?
But why?
Like at some point that dam has to be broken.
I think that defies what the Finals are about. They have enough individual awards for guys. All right? The Finals is about winning. I don't care that you were phenomenal and you lost. I mean, I care in that, we'll take that into account. But the finals MVP, I mean, look, I'm not going to say if a guy lost but got finals MVP, you wouldn't take some pride in that. You wouldn't celebrate it in that moment. You would be like, man, I don't even care about this and the post-game press conference. But in your house,
it's going on the mantle. Yeah.
At least I got this. But that's not what this is about. Enough individual awards during the season. This should be about winning. So I think the MVP should come from the winning team, period.
You give Jalen Hurts the Super Bowl MVP?
He wasn't. He lost them the game.
Coming up next.
He lost them the game, Wilds. He had the fumble 6. We've talked about it 2 years ago. You throw a grenade in there.
Don't surrender to that idea that we have to win tomorrow. We would love to, absolutely. But Game 5 is the biggest game of the season because it's the next game on the schedule.
Okay. Game 5 of the finals after going down 0-3 in the last 70 years. Only 3 winners here. Well, actually only 2. There's only 3 teams on the graphic. So there you go. Brew, is tonight a must-win?
Well, Tatum, I think one thing we've seen in these finals, he's a really nice guy. Maybe too nice. Like you're looking for that killer, all right? But I think with this situation, that quote, because a lot of people, they want the fire and brimstone of we're not going to Dallas. We got to win now. I feel like, and we've talked about his shooting slumps, not just these finals, but the finals period that he's been in. I think that's nerves. He admitted it before Game 1. He was nervous. And I think for him, this is my speculation.
I like this
But
take.
one of the ways to deal with it is to not make it so big.
It's a great take.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just a regular game. It's just like a Tuesday night game in January. It's just the next game. If he thinks about it, it's the finals. This is it. We got to win this game. I think it becomes too big for him. So I think that's what he's doing in that moment. As far as must win, I mean, obviously it's not a legitimate must win, but as far as emotionally, I would say no, and here's why. Dallas is only 6 because the next game would be in Dallas. Dallas is better on the road than they are at home. In the regular season, their win percentage on the road was better than at home. In the playoffs, they're 7-4 on the road, 6-4 at home. And Boston, they've been better on the road in the playoffs, 7-1 on the road. So they can go into Dallas and win, as we saw from Game 3, and Dallas can give it up at home. So I don't think it's a must.
But then by that logic, if Dallas were to win this game, is Game 6 a must-win for Boston? Because Game 7 would be
a legitimate must.
But also Game 7, Dallas would be on the road, where you're saying they're better, Boston at home. Here's why I think it is more of a must-win than you typically would find in a series where a team was up 3-0, gave away Game 4. Because of that guy. Because of Jason Tatum. Because as much as he wants to treat this game as just another game, Game 6 will not be possible to be treated that way. We will have 48 hours of It will. They will be facing the specter of the biggest choke job in the history of the sport, and it will, I would imagine, if they lose tonight, it will not be because Tatum all of a sudden finally had a great game.
Yeah.
And so I've been trying to find comps for this series or for, if Dallas were to make it a series. So the 2021 finals, Suns, Bucks.
Yep.
That Suns team was the equivalent of a 58-win team. It was a shortened season, so you just got to, they were 51-21, the equivalent 58-win team. They were 14-4 in the playoffs after the first 2 games of the NBA Finals. The Celtics team was 14-2 in the playoffs, but probably a little harder path for Phoenix. And then Milwaukee rolled off 4 straight. Didn't roll them in all 4. And that's what I'm saying. Going into Game 3 of the, and so we have seen in recent memory a team that felt like, well, they're better 1 through 5. They were better in the regular season. They've been better in the playoffs. All of a sudden get beat 4 in a row. And it was because a guy who is a historically great player took it to another level, and no one on Phoenix could match that. And that is why it is, to me, a nervous moment for Boston. Because Brew, and now we can show you the Luka in the elimination games. Luka in his career, this is what he does in elimination games. And then what those 34 points per game are is, of course, the most all time. We can show you that as well. And every game they play the rest of the way, you're going to be getting elimination game Luka. Now, maybe that, diminishing returns eventually, but here's the other piece of it. I do think that there's an element for Dallas Brew of Game 3, no Kristaps, Game 3, fourth quarter, we got something going, and it carried over